Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Element and Architecture podcast. Last time, we delved into one of the most ancient cities that we've ever discussed on this podcast, and that is the Forbidden City of China. Last time, I also mentioned that we are going to be discussing another city that is more modern and way newer than the Forbidden City, and that is indeed correct. In this episode, we are going to be discussing one of China's newest cities in progress at this time. The Tencent Net City in Shenzhen is one of the biggest projects designed by mad architects. This episode is going to be a little bit different actually because I went to Mad Architects for their studio as an intern, and this is the project that I was assigned to focus on. And the information that I'll be discussing comes from the design reports from Mad Architects that they provided to me. And I can assure that this is going to be interesting hearing these insights from Mad Architects themselves, hearing them from such a big architecture firm. And what can we hear basically? Well, we can basically learn about what architectural design means to them and how they accomplish these design goals. In the meantime, I will also be applying my own insights to how the buildings accomplish a certain goal. So let's begin by examining the competition phase and the overall plan of the project. So the competition phase of Tencent Dachangwan project. Dachangwan means basically a sort of like a certain waterfront area. And so this is the Tencent waterfront area. The Tencent Dachangwan project produced comprehensive, and this project produced comprehensive architectural designs, including design concepts, park planning, and specific building plans actually. So Tencent's network city consists of 5 different zones. They are the exhibition zone, innovation zone, headquarters base, leisure zone, and health zone. And these zones, they have their own specific themes. For example, the exhibition zone is basically for conventions and stuff like that. Innovation zone is for basically where tech is going to be playing a role and basically for innovation. And the headquarters base is basically the base or the headquarters of Tencent, which is one of the largest tech companies in China at this time. The leisure zone is going to provide leisure, and the theme is going to be relaxation. The health zone is going to be for health themed, and you can basically tell from the functions of these different zones and how they're going to affect the design features that each zone has. So there are these 5 different zones in the Tencent Net City, and these zones are interconnected by non-linear central green axes, which serves as the city's central scenic pathway. So if you look at any pictures of the Tencent Net City, you can just see the waterfront area, and then this green axis that transverses the entire area horizontally. Each zone also features its own waterfront park, offering unique entertainment and recreational activities. So you can see from basically just from the planning how they emphasize the community aspect a lot. So community is also an important theme in this project. So if you look at any pictures of the plan of the city, you can see these 5 different zones lined up along the waterfront area, and And then these 5 different areas are basically this huge green space or area that crosses these 5 areas, sort of parallel to the waterfront area. So that is the overall plan of the 5 different zones of the Tencent Net City. Next up, we are going to be talking about Mad Architect's design strategy with tackling this specific Tencent Net City project. So the design strategy begins with defining the site dimensions. The known boundaries determine the tower area and are connected by a central landscape axis, and the site dimensions are important to know the dimensions of the specific aspect of the city. Now, the central landscape is extended to create more activity space. So in each zone, you can just tell that there's a central landscape area for recreational activities and basically greenery space. So this is extended to create more activity space for the community aspect. So you can see how the community theme is going to has affected the overall planning or the design of the city. The planning includes visual corridors with sea views and appropriate transportation hubs. And this is basically another step with the design strategy, which is to allow for more freedom with the visual corridors for the viewers to look at the sea views, and appropriate allocations of the transportation hubs. So you can see how the location of the city, which is along the waterfront area, also affects the design, basically leaving room for the sea views, and also allocating the transportation hubs. And also, the next step is diverse public spaces are then added, which are basically public spaces that offers diverse sort of forms. And once the public spaces are planned, towers are designed. The height of the towers are controlled, and basically they're first controlled, and then reshaping the skyline of high-rise buildings in the area. The towers are elevated to create ground-level spaces, and by shaping the landmark towers based on the existing towers, the forms of the towers in the park can be optimized. With the completed architectural forms, rooftop gardens can be added on top of the towers, and cloud-like structures are shaped both in the sky and on the ground. So you can just see these cloud-themed structures on the rooftops and at the ground level, which we will talk about. So the key elements of this project, let me summarize, are basically the iconic tower buildings surrounding the clusters of towers and cloud-like structures, and also green spaces with the central green axes, the ground level green spaces, and basically these are the key elements of the Tencent Net City. Let's first talk about the central green axis. The central green axis is a non-linear green avenue established as the central scenic axis of the Dachangwan City or the Tencent Net City. The continuity of the green axis is preserved when it reaches major buildings and runs through the entire city. So it's this green axis that runs through the entire city. And the main towers becomes a focal point from the perspective of the green axis. So the view from the green axis is also considered in relation to the main towers and all the different architectures in the city. Now, the green axis is formed by a series of undulating slopes, and it resembles a wave-like green avenue. And as you can see from Mad's projects, most of its architecture resembles a similar theme with the wave-like design features and consistent occurrence of curves throughout the architecture. And basically, the winding path of the green axis allows the green avenue to pass through the landmark buildings in the city. So that is another aspect. It's not linear, as I've mentioned about its non-linear properties. It's a winding path of green space that transverses throughout the city, and that's basically another aspect about its wave and curved properties that MAD always emphasizes in their architecture. These landmark buildings symbolize the city's two fastest points: the convention center, tower clusters, Tencent headquarters, and cloud structures. And from the city's perspective, the skyline gradually descends from taller buildings from behind the waterfront areas to lower towers along the axis. So you can see this sort of emphasis on the skyline with also the waves or the curves. So if you look at any pictures from the side of the city specifically, you can tell that it's a gradual curve upwards from the waterfront area to the part behind. And that's basically the shape of the skyline, which also emphasizes the curved shape that MAD architects also like to emphasize. And the city's green carpet, or the green axis, emphasizes the forested lawns. It presents a visually prominent central green space. How they are going to be designing the green space? Well, the green carpet transitions smoothly with comfortable slopes for the people to walk on. So, and retaining walls in steeper areas for basically resting areas, and shaded sidewalks or walkways for people. And so you can see how these, how consideration for people and the community has shaped the design elements of this, the design features of this green axis. So we can see again how community plays, the whole theme of community and people plays a huge part in designing this building. And this, to be honest, the whole city is about doing it for the people, and having this theme about people and relationships. So we can see how this is going to further affect the design elements of the city. So again, coming back to the green carpet, water pools within the green carpet provides a cohesive element. So there is going to be these fountain elements in the green carpet or the green axes. And the hardscape features paving, ground lighting displays, and reflective sunshades. And these are basically going to be the hardscape elements, which are basically where you walk on, and the hard ground space area. And the soft space area includes trees and these gentle slopes, and these green space that we've talked about. And this is overall how they're going to be designing the green space. And then let's move on to the ground landscape. Not specifically the green axis, although that can be a green the ground landscape, but we were going to be talking more about how more of the non-green landscapes that are on the ground. So the project employs a series of gentle slopes for the ground landscape to blur the height differences between the landscape streets and the scenic axes. And it creates this continuous flow. So you can see this blurring of height differences between the landscape streets and these scenic axes, and it creates this sort of flow that again corroborates to MAD's emphasis on curves and waves. There are also solar panels on the ground that utilize sunlight to generate renewable energy. So that is another very important aspect of the city, which is emphasizing sustainability in the city. You can see solar panels being placed in the city to generate renewable energy, which is this sort of green energy. And then let's move on to Tencent cloud structures. What do I mean by this? Well, the Tencent cloud structures are basically present throughout the entire city. And it's a type of structure whose primary goal is serving as a space for sharing knowledge. And that is basically the theme of the cloud structures, sharing knowledge and promoting sort of human relationships. The cloud includes cloud structures in the waterfront towers, Tencent headquarters, and the convention center. The cloud retains the ground landscape and extends it vertically. The elevated structures provide shelter for the wind and rain for people. Again, that's another aspect they're trying to promote for humans. That's basically doing it for the humans. And horizontal scales outside of the cloud structures serve as sunshades and designed to absorb solar energy and reduce energy consumption. So if you look at any pictures of the cloud structures, these are basically these circular low-rise buildings. And you can see on the facade they have these sunshades or these horizontal platforms. And these are the sunshades that are designed to absorb solar energy and reduce energy consumption. And again, that is an aspect of the sustainability of the buildings and the entire city. So we can see this whole recurring theme of sustainability and basically community/humans, people, throughout the project. And moving back to the Tencent cloud structures, the design of the Tencent cloud employs these curves, not only for these sunshades, these curves sort of on the outside of the facade, but it's also for the sun, but it's also to provide unity and diversity in the design, integrating with the surrounding urban context. Now, the cloud structures create a floating sensation between the pure towers. So you can see it's the central area that's located between the tower clusters, and it creates this sort of floating sensation that between the towers, mainly because of its sort of curved shape and form, as well as its elevated and curved upward effect. And so that forms a floating sensation that corroborates to the idea of a cloud. And it also forms a multi-layered urban space. So it's basically an urban space that's multi-layered. And furthermore, appropriate adjustments are made to enhance the solidity of the bottom of the cloud structure. And that's a design goal of mad architects. So the cloud architecture is basically cloud structures. It's basically this architecture that sort of resembles a cloud and creates also this theme of human relationships. And this can be reflected from its form that I just talked about, creating this floating sensation and this sense of serenity and peace and tranquility. The cloud structures feature transparent core cylinders and open landscapes. To emphasize the transparency and visual appeal, the cloud structures employ bright materials such as white concrete, aluminum panels, and terrazzo. And the roof utilizes transparent ETFE membranes, and that creates this light-filled atmosphere that contributes to the sense of openness. While the bright materials such as the white concrete, aluminum panels, and terrazzo are used for the building's floor edges, core walls, and ground surfaces. The roof, and basically, these clear, transparent interior spaces promote human interactions, which is one of the aims of the cloud structures. And this can be reflected in the materials that they chose to create this transparent and light tone with the color of this, or the overall hue with this cloud structure. So you can see again, this is the theme of human relationships, and doing it for the people are reflected again with the material that is chosen with this building. The cloud structures also include a natural valley, which is an open ecological courtyard and allows sunlight into the courtyard, which provides a serene and nature-inspired retreat within the bustling city. Now, the inclusion of green spaces promotes sustainability, which is another one of the recurring themes of sustainability and greenery with the entire city, and it improves air quality and creates opportunities for relaxation and reflection for the people. And you can see how the theme of sustainability also can be reflected can be linked sort of with the theme of people and relationships. Now, the bottom of the Tencent cloud employs floor-to-ceiling glass and flat metal materials to provide a transparent visual effect. Now, this transparent visual effect that blurs the boundaries between the indoors and outdoors. And this design approach creates a seamless connection with the surrounding environment and offers occupants a sense of being immersed in nature. You can see another aspect about the environment for the people. And the Tencent's office spaces incorporate materials such as opaque, rigid panels, light films, granite, and aluminum panels. And this provides a sense of future and technology as the experience for the people. So you can just imagine this light-filled area with light hues. You can just feel, as well as the double height elevators. And so these aspects with the chosen materials and the double height elevators also creates this sense of future and technology for the people. And the facades, let's talk about the facades of the Tencent cloud, which are called cloud slices. And while the glass facade provides a horizontal view, it's also used as a sunshade. And basically, the cloud structure ceilings are composed of silver panel bricks. And that is it for the cloud structure of the Tencent city. We talked a lot, and that's basically what they did in their design reports, which is to talk about these aspects. And moving on to the final part, which is the tower designs. So the tower design, or the skyscraper designs, incorporate a concave concept, which is that the height of the high-rise buildings gradually increase with the focal point at the northwest corner, emphasizing the streamlined outlines of the towers and the continuity of the landscape. So you can see, again, with the mad architects' sort of recurring emphasis on the curved and wave sort of design features in their buildings and architecture. And additionally, the project creates a concept of green ridge by building rooftop gardens and optimizing the curve shapes of the towers. So they're going to emphasize the greenery at the top of the rooftop, and also emphasize the curve shapes that is formed with the skyline of the towers. And overall, the streamlined profiles of the tower clusters, the undulating skyline, and the rooftop gardens create a green mountainous appearance with the towers. So these buildings has forms of similar to mountains, and the rooftop gardens, along with the natural landscape at the ground level with the green axes, also creates just this sense that they're just these green towers, or the green mountains for the towers. So they have these mountain appearances. The rounded corners of the towers make the airflow smoother and reduce turbulence, while the height of the building generates a more downward airflow. So you can see how they're also considering the aerodynamics of the building as well with the design. And the building clusters feature terraces and elevated platforms to allow better airflow. Moreover, the fully glazed facades provide ample daylight, and wind turbines on the tower roofs utilize strong winds to generate renewable energy. So you can see the recurring theme of sustainability within the towers as well. The overall characteristic of the network city lies in the upward and downward flow of the skyline, which is inspired by the distant waves in the Dachangwan. You can basically the waves in the sea. That's what they're talking about, and also used to symbolize the flow of the interactions between the Tencent partners, and that highlights the expressive architecture within the city. And the height differences between the tower creates an undulating wave-like form for the city as a whole. So if you look at the city from horizontal or from the front, you can just see these waves formed by the skyline, are actual waves formed by the skyline that goes up and down. And so the curvature and the smooth transitions is also reflected in this architecture. An important design element with Dachangwan City as well is the control of architectural diversity. So that's getting more specific into the facade and the sort of these stuff with the buildings. And these buildings behind the oceans have vertically oriented facades, while those in the front of the waterfront area have horizontally oriented facades. And these vertical and horizontal facades feature 5 different sub-designs, and that creates this architectural diversity in the exterior of the building. Additionally, the buildings employ pure glass and pixelated facades to further enhance the diversity. So these are examples of the facade designs. And apart from the facades, low-rise buildings in the city exhibit diverse forms and types as well. And finally, we're going to be talking about the specific facade designs with the office buildings. So the Tencent Cloud's office towers features a cascading rooftop garden. So you can just see that the rooftop is cascading and multi-layered. The facade of the office buildings employ a staggered arrangement of standard panels with the glass panels, or misarrangement sort of standard panels that appears as if they were shifted off horizontally. So you can see that the facade, they have these panels and the different floors, and between the different floors they sort of appear shifted off from the looks of the glass panels. And this facade design with the misarranged glass panels creates rhythm and adds vibrancy to the exterior of the building. The staggered sunshades also on the facade of the building, which are basically these thin platforms, use bright silver anodized aluminum panels, and the shadow boxes between the layers use fluorocarbon sprayed aluminum panels, with the glass used being laminated, fully insulated, and extra clear. And these materials are used to achieve the futuristic facade design, in my opinion, with the light-colored glass, the vertical silver linings that separates the glass panels on the facade, giving it sort of this gentle, futuristic light hue to the building. And the central ridge of the current walls provides good proportions to the building facade, and it adds layers. And the building also adopts a vertical facade shading system, with the misalignment of glass acting as sort of a layout for sunshades, and basically emphasizing the vertical growth of the building. Now, in conclusion, the Shenzhen Tencent Net City exemplifies the harmonious integration of architectural innovation, sustainable designs, and community engagement. And these are the important themes we see throughout the architectural design of the city, the sustainability and consideration of the community and people. And from the central green axes to the cloud structures, diverse tower designs, every element is meticulously planned to create a visually stunning and functional urban design. And this city serves as a testament to the potential of contemporary architecture to shape the future of our cities, providing inspiration for sustainable and people-centric sort of urban development. So sustainability and urban and people-centric urban development are huge aspects in this city, and I hope with the other cities in the city in the world that they're going to emphasize these aspects even more. That is it for this episode, this podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast with a different architecture that's hopefully just as interesting as this one. So see you in the next episode.